Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Megan and today we are going to do a book talk. Today we are going to do a book talk about the third Magnus Chase book, which I have been anticipating for a year, and that is Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard, The Ship of the Dead. Don't you just love this cover? Very, very legitimate cover that is very real and not off-center at all. So this is the final Magnus Chase book, which is heartbreaking because it's not fair that it only gets to be a trilogy, whereas Apollo gets a whole 5-book quintet. This is a trilogy? Really? You play me like this, Rick Riordan? If you don't know what the Magnus Chase series is about, it is a spin-off of the Percy Jackson series, following Annabeth's younger cousin Magnus, who is the son of a Norse god and who dies and goes to Valhalla. It is a very good trilogy and I would highly recommend it. So go read it if you haven't read it yet, and then come back to this video and watch me talk about the third book. So there will be spoilers for the entire trilogy and the final book in the trilogy. So the chapter titles for this book are phenomenal. I've got to say that first. I love Rick Riordan's chapter titles. They're just so good. They're like, okay, I think my favorite is My Sword Takes You to, dramatic pause, Funky Town. I think that's my favorite one. Though I also like Follow the Smell of Dead Frogs to the tune of Follow the Yellow Brick Road. That's a really good one. I will say that I didn't enjoy this book as much as I thought I would. I did love it. I, of course, loved it. I did give it 5 stars, but I kind of wanted to go it down to 4 stars because there are a few things that kind of bugged me in it that are still bugging me days later, and they're small things really, and it's my dumb opinion. It's just not really important things, but they're still bugging me. In the beginning of the book, we get to see Percy and Annabeth interacting with Magnus, and though we didn't get to see Percy and Magnus first meet, Magnus's sword Jack does call Riptide a babe, so I think that's very important and makes up for that. Like, that was very important for Jack to fall in love with Riptide. We only get to see Percy and Annabeth for 2 chapters. 2 whole chapters, but 2 chapters, which was a little disappointing. I was kind of hoping that maybe Percy would go along with them. I knew probably not, but I was still a little hopeful. Little bit. I mean, he's the son of the Greek god of the sea, so you would think it'd be handy if he maybe went to maybe protect his girlfriend's younger cousin. It would be a good idea. I thought it was a good idea. Instead, they drove off in their Prius to go to California, so we'll probably see them in the Burning Maze. When the Burning Maze comes out in May, we'll see them again probably then. And we do get a hint at the end that something is going down because Annabeth is crying, or was crying, and apparently they got some bad news when they got to California, so that's really interesting and going to drive me nuts for the next however many months. 6 months? 6 months? Can't tell, but this shirt, it's covered in wolves. That's the joke. It's covered in wolves. We also get to learn the name of Percy's new baby sister is Estelle Blowfist, which is honestly a kind of horrible name, but I like the name Estelle, and I can't wait for some eventual novels about her. No, I know we're probably not going to ever get some novels about her, but I would love it if we did. Like, hey, she could die and go to Valhalla. I mean, she doesn't have to be Norse to do that, I don't think. We get a lot more of Floor 19 in this book, Magnus's floor mates, TJ Halfborn, I think his name is, and Mallory, which is great, though I also as part of my main complaint is that there was a lot of Magnus's friends doing things, not necessarily Magnus doing a lot of things, which in the end, that's, I think, what the book really focuses on is Magnus and his friends. It's Magnus supporting his friends. It's very much about Magnus supporting his friends, which is interesting to see, but I do wish Magnus had gotten to do more stuff himself, particularly because when we got to the flighting, when he flighted Loki, I expected to see more of Magnus's sassier side, because in the first book, in Sword of Summer, he was a lot I felt like he was a lot sassier and saltier. Seems like maybe Alex absorbed all of the snarkiness from Magnus, and Magnus isn't as snarky in this book as he used to be. I don't know. It's my main annoyance is he's not as sassy as he used to be. Like, I felt like in the first book he was pretty sassy, but now he's not. And that was a little disappointing. While I can always appreciate a good friendship is magic kind of ending, it felt a little like I could see the marionette strings. Like, everything that happens in this book, all the things that his friends do, just serve the purpose of him being able to brag about those things that his friends did, to tear Loki down, to insult Loki and brag about his friends, which makes sense and it works, but what happened to the Magnus Chase that flipped off a fire giant on a fridge that flipped off a fire giant on a bridge and then got molten metal thrown into his gut and thrown off the bridge? What happened to that Magnus Chase? I mean literally he died, but can't come to the phone right now because he's dead. I don't know. But I love Magnus. Anyway, I don't care if he's all sugar or all salt. He's still my baby, and I love him. But we do get more of Floor 19 and learn a lot more about Magnus's hallmates, because in the last two books they kind of only showed up at the beginning and the very end, and not at all in between, so they were Magnus's friends, but we never saw them. And in this book we actually get to see them and see them do stuff and learn about their histories more, which was nice to do. I wish we could have learned more about them beforehand, instead of, that way we could focus more on Magnus in this book, but since it is the last book, or we learned that Mallory is the daughter of Frigg, the Norse goddess, which I did not see that coming at all. We saw Halfborn's home village, or what was his home village hundreds of years ago, and we got to see more of TJ, who thanked the English for not supporting the Confederacy. Little awkward, but still good to see them and see them do things and see them more up close, though they're okay. If I had to make a choice, I would say I would have preferred having maybe Percy and Annabeth go than Floor 19, but that's just me and my wishful thinking and my love of Percy and Annabeth, but that's neither here nor there because we did not get that. Sam in this book, it was very interesting to see because it was during Ramadan, which I don't know a whole lot about Ramadan, to be frank and honest. I know very little, except for the things most people know. It's really interesting that was included in this book. This book is great for being diverse and having a lot of representation. I tell you what, this trilogy, the series, has a lot of that. I feel like Rick Riordan has gotten more diverse as he's gone on, like, purposely. Like, the early Percy Jackson books, it's not particularly diverse at all. With each book he gets, I feel like, a little more diverse, which is a great thing. It's great to see him evolving as a writer in that way. So in this book, they get on a boat to go stop Loki's boat. So much like in the Blood of Olympus books, Magnus has to travel to the Nordic countries, which is super cool. So we go to Norway. We stop on the way at England, which, shockingly, Magnus did not run into Harry Potter. Magnus also has a super huge crush on Alex for the entirety of the book, too. Magnus and Alex, I am obviously super happy about them sort of getting together at the end, and they kissed twice and held hands at the end, and I'm super happy about that, except I still don't really like Alex as much as I wish I did. I wish I liked her more, her more. I'll use her as for a pronoun, but I wish I did like her more, but much like in the Hammer of Thor, I just didn't quite. I did like her more towards the end of Hammer of Thor than I did here. Like, I liked her, I like her character, but she's kind of mean to Magnus, in my opinion, and Magnus doesn't deserve that. It's not like he needs to be knocked down a few pegs. Magnus can do that on his own. It's not like he's super arrogant or anything, so it feels kind of unnecessary how kind of rough Alex is on him. And maybe that's just me, and because I think that Magnus deserves all the love in the world. I don't know. I know that even though Alex is kind of mean, it's sort of hiding her gooey center, so it's like, so it's not that bad, but it's just, it got on my nerves how every time Magnus is sad, I'm sad. So I was sad a lot. We did learn a little bit more about Alex as well, though, which was neat. We learned that she can create clay creatures, which is certainly surprising. Didn't see that coming, which was super cool and super useful at one point. As I've said, Magnus doesn't do a whole lot in this book. I feel like he heals a bit. He does mostly healing, and he also gets one new power when he licks some dragon blood off his fingers, which wasn't very smart. And then he can talk to animals, or can understand animals, which was kind of out of nowhere and only comes in handy once. It only comes up once. It just sort of is a thing. Like, congratulations, Magnus, you can talk to animals now. Okay, like, sure. Why not? And it doesn't come in, like, hugely handy. It just kind of comes in handy one time. And sure, it's good for that one time, but it's still like, is that necessary? Did he need that power? I don't know, but it's cool. I always love when characters can talk to animals, but okay then. Though Magnus does get to stab a dragon, which I thought was cool, though it is kind of made out more to be Earthstone and Blitzen's moment there, considering it's Earthstone's dad, which, wow, Earthstone's dad. Damn. Like, Gollum got off easy compared to Hearthstone's dad when it came to rings. Jeez. Turned into a ring dragon, and that didn't seem very pleasant, but they killed him, which was not really sad, but kind of cool and good. We wrapped that off because it was kind of left dangling in Hammer of Thor when they were in Alfheim. So that was good that we went back there to kill Hearthstone's dad. I would say this book is a little softer and fluffier than I would have imagined because, I mean, as I said, like, in The Sword of Summer, Magnus literally gets molten metal thrown into his gut and kills him, and that's pretty violent. I don't remember if Hammer of Thor was particularly violent. This book is a little fluffier. Like, I'm saying that even though, like, they do kill lots of monsters and stuff. Maybe it's just because it has a pretty fluffy ending with Magnus using the power of friendship to win the day, which was, it was fitting, I would say, but it was also kind of a little bit of a letdown. Like, it was, like, I loved it, but it was also like, oh, that's what we're doing. Okay, that's done. Good job, put Loki in a walnut, that's cool. The focus was all on Magnus's friends and their accomplishments. Magnus didn't really get to accomplish anything besides having great friends, which is cool. Good for you, you have great friends, but, and poor Jack, too. Jack got left out of the, friendship is magic speech. Much like in Hammer of Thor, Jack feels sort of forgotten. Like, obviously he was a big deal in the Sword of Summer because he is the Sword of Summer. And then he's just feels like he's a little forgotten in Hammer of Thor and Ship of the Dead. So you have a magical talking sword, maybe use it a little more. This was a pretty quick read, I would say. It went by pretty fast. I mean, it's middle grade, so it's a pretty short book, pretty short and easy to read, and it was over faster than I would have liked, maybe. It felt like it went by really fast and then it was over, and I don't know if I was satisfied by the ending or not. Like, I am, but I would also love to have more. Like, I'm happy with the end, I suppose, but I wish we could have more, especially since Magnus can now talk to animals, and him and Alex might be a thing. I would love to see more of both of those things. Like, I would love to see them come into the Apollo books, maybe for the last Apollo book they can come help out. I don't know, something, anything. I mean, I would love more of the Percy Jackson universe in general. Like, I'd love more Percy, I'd love more Annabeth, I'd love more Magnus, I'd love more Apollo. I mean, we're getting more Apollo, but you know what I mean. I really enjoy these books a lot. Even though this book maybe wasn't my favorite, I love the series and I love Magnus Chase. So it was a pretty good book. It was a good book. It did mostly focus on valuing your friends, I guess, is the moral of the story here, which is, it's a good moral. You know, I love friendship and whatnot. Did I necessarily think that it was the best way to go? I don't know. It was a decent way to go, especially since we've had, in other Percy Jackson books, a big fight at the end. So in this case, we didn't really have a huge fight at the end so much as Magnus telling Loki he sucks, and then he gets put in a walnut. So That's pretty reasonable. That makes sense. That pretty much, I would say, wraps up my thoughts on the Ship of the Dead. Feel free to tell me your thoughts on the Ship of the Dead. So that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.